Separate from my regular opening statement, I need to talk about a serious threat to this committee's oversight authority and do it just briefly. The need for Congress to have access to information in the executive branch is inherent in the Constitution. The Supreme Court has said so clearly and repeatedly. Executive branch agencies cannot limit our legislative power of inquiry merely by entering into non-disclosure agreements with one another. But that's exactly what the FBI has tried to do. Yesterday, I sent a pair of letters to the Office of Special Counsel and the FBI about the most recent example. Non-disclosure agreements are essentially gag orders, plain and simple. They thwart transparency, accountability, and seek to obstruct congressional oversight. The Office of Special Counsel, OSC for short, is a permanent independent watchdog agency, not a temporary prosecutor appointed by the Justice Department like Mr. Mueller. Following complaints from Congress, the Office of Special Counsel opened an investigation of former Director Comey. By law, one of the Office of Special Counsel's jobs is to enforce the Hatch Act. The Hatch Act makes it illegal for government officials to engage in political activity. So the Office of Special Counsel began trying to gather evidence to find out whether Comey had a political motive for his actions. But there was one problem. The FBI refused to cooperate voluntarily. OSC could have engaged in a long legal battle to force the FBI to turn over the information. But the FBI was apparently less concerned about OSC than they're concerned about Congress's oversight opportunities and responsibilities. The FBI demanded that OSC promise not to give any of the information to Congress. A gag order, that was the price of quick and easy access to the information by that agency. So OSC took the deal. But the documents and interview transcripts are vital to this committee's oversight of the FBI. We managed to obtain 2 heavily redacted witness interviews. They show that Mr. Comey had made up his mind and started drafting his controversial announcements months before the Clinton investigation was over. But we were not consulted or even informed of the FBI's insistence that OSC agree to a gag order until after the fact. According to OSC, the FBI has never asked for such a gag order before. Neither has any other agency. Why now? Why was the FBI so focused on keeping Congress in the dark? Why is it so afraid of shining the light of day on the controversial decisions Mr. Comey made in the months before he was fired? This isn't the first time the FBI has tried this trick. It also reportedly made all the agents working on the Clinton investigation agreement agree to a special gag orders. But the executive branch cannot avoid constitutional oversight by assigning agreements. This committee has oversight authority over the Department of Justice and the FBI. If there's any whiff of inappropriate partisan or political influence in these institutions under any administration or any party, this committee has a duty to get to the bottom of it. That is exactly what we will do. I expect full, complete, and timely answers to my letters. This committee needs to see the full witness interview and all the documents, including drafts and internal FBI memos about Comey's decision to make that controversial statement last summer, and I will do everything in my power to make sure that we do. Do you have anything you want to say on that subject? Because you can have whatever time you want.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I'm in agreement with the general thrust of your statement. I have found that it should also apply with the sharing of intelligence with this committee, and I have sent a letter to Senator Burr. As a member of the Intelligence Committee, I have been privy to certain pieces of intelligence, as would Senator Cornyn be privy to that. it seemed to me that when I saw it, it was relevant to this committee's oversight, and yet this committee cannot receive it. So I have sent a letter which documents our rules, and hopefully the Intelligence Committee will be responsive, and that matters that involve our oversight, which, as we've discussed in the investigation, there's clear oversight of the Justice Department, and therefore matters of obstruction of justice are within the jurisdiction of this committee. And so hopefully we will be able to obtain that. I just haven't had a chance to tell you that, but I did.
Last night's attack in Las Vegas and similar attacks in Orlando, Manchester, Nice, France have all shown the potential for terrorists to kill massive numbers of people by targeting massive events, concerts and gatherings like that. Is there anything we can do to keep these events safe? Dan Bongino is a former Secret Service agent. Aaron Cohen is a counterterrorism expert, and they join us tonight. Aaron, first to you. You can think of ways that you could lock down events like this, but they would basically entail making it almost impossible to get to the events. Is there a way to secure an arena or a place with 20,000 people that is consistent with the way we live now? Or we have to change completely the way we live in order to be safe?
I don't think you have to change completely, Tucker. In fact, the Israeli model, which I think is extremely applicable to all soft targets here in the United States, including our airports, is very applicable. And the reason why is, let me give you an example. We don't have people take off shoes at airports. One of the most simple security elements that could have been applied here, or that needs to be applied moving forward with all venues related to soft targets where you have large crowds of people, had those bags been checked at that hotel, and I know that sounds crazy, but bag checks would have kept weapons from being brought up to those rooms. So the Israeli approach isn't necessarily designed to put a cork in people's lifestyle. There's a way to move security along efficiently, but that's also scientific but honest, and the security has to be honest. So bag checks could have easily kept guns from getting up to that 32nd floor. I mean, the guy had to carry ammunition, hundreds of rounds. He had to carry automatic weapons, which is what we know they were. They got to be put in bags. So bag checks would have been a very basic step, and I think that that's something that needs to be looked at.
It's a big deal, though. I mean, spend a week in Israel. I like Israel, but you go to Israel, it's not like the United States at all. I mean, they don't have freedom of movement like we do. I mean, that's a different level of security. Dan Bongino, are Americans ready for that?
It's doable.
I mean,
it's doable.
It works, but are Americans ready for it, Dan?
I don't think so, Tucker. And the problem you have with setting up, say, bag checks are not a bad idea, but say magnetometers combined with bag checks, is you have in essence the Fort Lauderdale airport shooting, where you have a clean area, sterile, clean and devoid of all weapons, but then you have an area right outside where you can just engage people lining up either at a bag check or magnetometers. I think one practical step we can all agree on going forward is mid and large-sized police departments are probably going to look at building up their counter-sniper teams, and any type of big outdoor rally now, obviously now that this has been put in the idea of every terrorist in the world watching this, you're probably going to see a counter-sniper and a spotter at these events looking at these window matrices and keeping them safe.
Tucker, I don't disagree with your with your guest. And Dan, you and I park our cars in the same garage, and we both want the best for the country as far as security, but counter snipers aren't going to keep bags or guns from being brought up into hotels. They're not going to keep them from getting up to the 32nd floor. They're not going to keep weapons and guns or explosives from being brought into the actual event itself. Here's the thing that I would be advising President Trump at this point with the soft targets, if I may, Tucker, very quickly. The purpose of, or what makes Israeli security really work well, we realize you can't get total security. It's impossible. So we use what's called multi-layers. And multi-layering means by stacking layers of as many different levels as possible, it would take a multi-failure event for this idiot to be able to open fire. I agree that a designated marksman in elevated positions is definitely something you want to have when you have a hotel overlooking, 90 floors or 80 floors or 60 floors overlooking a crowd of 22,000 people. But this is how long it takes for me to check a bag. Excuse me, sir. sir, could you do me a favor? I need you to open that up for me, and and then the valet will take that up to your room for me. Thank you so much. And if you could, we're just going to have you, if you could have your ID ready when you check in, and all of your guests, they just need to show IDs when you check in. It literally takes a minute.
You're the politest security guard I've ever dealt with in the Middle East. I will say that's not the way it actually works. Sorry, I've spent a lot of time there. Wait, but hold on, Dan. Is someone thinking deeply about why this is happening? Before we turn the country into a police state to avoid things like this, maybe we should know why these things are recurring. Are there big brains working on that question?
You know, I hope so, because the most troubling part of this story, since I've been up since 5 o'clock in the morning doing commentary on this, is the troubling lack of a motive at this point. I mean, at this point in the game, I know it's in its infancy, the investigation, but I assure you behind the scenes, social media postings, financial transactions, friends and family networks, people are being interviewed. The fact that nothing's leaked out yet about any kind of a substantial motive is deeply troubling. But I assure you, yes, the best experts from federal, state, and local law enforcement are looking at this right now to find out what the heck is going on.
Yeah, because something's going on in American society that it has nothing to do with guns. It has to do with attitudes or something. And I think it's worth figuring out. Gentlemen, thank you for that. I appreciate it.